Hi, and welcome to the BookishStitcher podcast. My name is Jeanette. You can find me on Ravelry, Instagram, and Goodreads as BookishStitcher, all one word. I hope you've had a great week since I last podcasted. It's a little later in the day than I normally podcast, so the lighting's a little different because the sun is coming through the windows, and we have not had sun all week. It's been a crazy couple of weeks with the weather because I think the week before last, we had hail so bad that some of my friends near me are having to get new roofs because we had hail. It was just softball size, and people's windshields had holes in them and everything like that. And then this past week, I know Houston got it a lot worse than we did, and I feel so horrible for the people in Houston. I know 8 people have died, and it's been crazy, but we've had some rain here in Texas, and we actually in San Antonio they had to shut down one of the highways on Monday because it was flooded. And you don't mess around with floods. If it's barricaded off, or if it says don't go, turn around, don't drown is the phrase that they have. It's really like there for your safety, so you got to follow those. But I know Houston has just been hit very hard, and if you're in Houston, I hope that you're okay and that your house and everything is okay, and just feeling for you this week. We had a good weekend here. It was my mom's birthday yesterday, and so my family and I took her out to breakfast, and I gave her the shawl and the socks, and she was like, oh, 2 knit things. She was very happy. And I put a picture of her on Instagram holding up the shawl, and she thought it was so beautiful, so I was very happy. And I have some other FOs to show this week. It's so funny because one of them I was frantically trying to get done for the podcast. It's that thing of like, okay, I'm going to podcast later in the day today because I want to have this done. And I had a list of things that I wanted to have done, and I don't even think I finished half of them. But the first thing that I finished, and it's still damp because I took it off of the blocking thing, which is really just a towel or a little like mat kind of thing. But this is my September circle. It was a pattern that was gifted to me for my birthday in 2015 by my friend Jennifer, who's an ironical knitter. And you can see the little arches that are created in the pattern. And it has this black, and then this blackish blue color, which is gorgeous, to this purple. I don't know how well you can see it right there. But this was out of some Zaberval, and I haven't sewn in the ends. I just laid it out to kind of block. But there are going to be tons of ends to sew in on this, not because I used a whole bunch of different skeins. I only used one, but there were so many knots. I've never had a skein with this many knots in it before. There were so many knots in it, and I just cut them and kind of was going to sew them in later. So there's a ton of ends to weave in. I'm having some tea today. Oh, it's still really hot. This is some David's tea, and it's the Forever Nuts. I almost had coffee, as we have some really amazing H-E-B. H-E-B is the grocery store from San Antonio. I know in other regions have their own grocery stores and stuff. In other parts of Texas, you can go to like Kroger's or Randall's, but H-E-B is kind of the pride of San Antonio. It's an amazing grocery store, and that's kind of where we go. I know it's kind of the only thing really near us too, because it's very dominated by the San Antonio area. If you wanted to go to another grocery store, I think there's like a Trader Joe's, which we do go to. There's Whole Foods, which we rarely go to. And there's like Walmarts and Targets and stuff like that, but they're not very close by us, so we just go to H-E-B a lot. But this David's tea I got online because we don't have a store near us. So the other finished object I have this week is my test knit. And this is the Gex Cardigan by Ultra Mariner. And so this project was amazingly fun. This yoke part was so much fun. And I did I believe the 12-month size. And it was also really great for using up scraps. I used up here is a scrap, one scrap. The sweaters knit in is a scrap that I had, because this is the year I'm trying to use up a whole bunch of scraps. And then this, I have just the tiniest little bit left, tiny, tiny. It's not really enough to do anything. But in the pattern, she has you do, this is a test knit, she has you do a button band. And I don't have enough yarn left over in any of these 3 colors to do a button band. So I was going to ask you, what would you do if you were doing this? Would you do a button band in a completely different color? I don't know if I have anything that would match, really. If you were going to do a button band in a different color, what color would you use? Because I don't know which color I would pick. And then, or would you just do some kind of toggles, maybe, and just have it like that? What do you think? Let me know, because I'm not sure. And I should ask the designer too, what would she want me to do, since it's a test knit. But I just want to kind of get your opinion. And that is the finished one, and it was such a fun pattern. It comes in, I think it's a great pattern for tons of reasons. I just absolutely love this. Thank you so much for letting me test it. It comes in all the way from 6 months to newborn size, all the way up through adult. So it's basically, you buy this pattern once and then you have it and you can re-knit it over and over again for tons of people. And I love patterns like that. Whenever I'm buying a pattern to knit for my daughter, I always make sure that it has, or one of my kids, my son or my daughter, I always make sure that it has a lot of various sizes, because I hate to pay for a pattern and then, you know, $6 or $7, and then it's like, oh, newborn through 2-year-olds. I'm like, oh, I wish I had more. So I like that I can use it over and over again. Especially if you love the pattern a lot, then you want to, you know, knit it for your kids as they get older. It's so hot. I really need. I thank you everyone for all the sweet comments on last week's episode. My son read every single one that you guys wrote to him, and it had him smiling all week, and it was wonderful. And I'm feeling better. The only thing I have, I'm not really tired anymore. You know, all better up here, but I have a little bit of a cough still in my lungs, so that's kind of the only thing, or in my chest, I guess. But now to what I worked on this week. My Mrs. Brown's bag, my Trushka dolls. I have my Ketch Harbour sweater, my Ketch Harbour shawl, and this is being knit out of some Islington DK by Kettle yarn, and I am knitting this very slowly because I am just enjoying it so much. I don't think I'm sure it has happened because I've been knitting for so many years, but I don't know if I've ever bought the yarn that the pattern exactly called for, except for the color is different, but the exact yarn blend, yarn company, yarn weight, everything for the pattern, and that the pattern was actually knit out of and then made it. So this has just been a really big treat. This is where I was last time I showed you. And this is not a Sucra miniature one. It's a different company that makes them. There are tons on Etsy you can find. But it was like Little T or Little J's studio or something. I don't remember, but that's where I was. So I've knit a couple inches, and it now has almost 400 stitches on the needles. So it wraps around. Since it's done in short rows, I can't really, until it's finished, you will not be able to see it unwrapped. So that's kind of how it's looking. It's going to be huge and wonderful, and I have a tiny bit left on the first skein, and then I will be moving on to the next one. So I'm not in any rush to get this done. It's funny because I talk to people that say, you know, when you're doing a knitting podcast, you feel like the pressure, the desire to have stuff done quickly and have a new thing going. But I'm going to just say that you're going to see this for a while because I'm loving it. And I don't really want to finish it anytime soon. So if you get bored of seeing it, I'm sorry. But it's so beautiful. It's very shiny. And the blend is BFL and silk, half and half. It's a very unique blend too. And then I have my Hiro sweater, and this is in a bag that was gifted to me by my friend Shelly, and it was made by another friend of ours, Marianne. And my Hiro sweater is being knit out of some Spud and Chloe sweater in some different colors. And this is the, so last time I showed it, and this is a super miniature. Last time I showed it, I was right there. And then I'm almost done with the sleeve. This was one of those goals for today. I was like, finish sleeve before podcasting. I didn't finish the sleeve. But I am about 2 inches away. So it's looking like, and I'm very happy. And I'm going to, after I finish this, I'm going to start the body of the sweater and then do another sleeve. And then it'll be joining for the yoke with the beautiful color work that this pattern has. And I'm excited about the colors I picked for it. You guys will see them when I get to that part of it. And then the last thing that I have actually on the needles is in my bag that my friend Amelia made me for my birthday. And this kind of matches the yarn, I feel like. It's kind of fun. So I have to have a sock on the needles, and this is the last of my Fiber Nymph dye works. That's what the yarn is. And this is Gnome Place Like Home. And these are going to be some socks for my friend Becca. And it's wound into a ball because I love, it doesn't come like this. This has hand wound. Because I love how the different colors look when you do it like that. And this is what I have so far. The blues and the greens and browns and then red and then white and then it repeats. And these are going to be, these are part of my knit tons and tons of pairs of Christmas socks for friends. And I know she said she loves colors browns and blues and greens and neutrals with white. I don't know if she loves red, and I don't know how she'll feel about the sparkle, but she deserves sparkly socks. She's one of the most sweetest, kindest, would do anything for you people, and is very self-effacing. Like, she wouldn't want to be recognized that she's that awesome. She would be embarrassed if you told her she was awesome. And so that is the last of my whips. I don't normally talk about projects that I want to put on the needles, but I really want to show this today because this is probably going to be on the needles for next week, and it will probably be on the needles and done. So I wanted to kind of show it to you before that happens. And this lovely skein of Tell Me About It Stud, which is a reference to Grease from the Gilmore Girls Club. That was done by Spartacles Dyes. And I got her club in the worsted weight yarn because I wanted to build up my worsted weight stash. And so my daughter wants a new hat. And she loves kitty cat hats. I normally don't follow any pattern. I normally just knit it up myself because it's very simple. But I saw that one of my friends has actually one that she designed, so I might knit hers and try out her pattern. And so that will be on the needles tonight, tomorrow, sometime soon. And hats go so quickly, so that will be hopefully a finished object for next week. And it was funny because I think I accomplished my goal with the clubs I've been in recently, because I haven't been in a club in about a year, but the last few clubs that I was in, I signed up for the worsted weight instead of the fingering weight because I was thinking I have so much fingering weight, which I do. But now, because of these clubs, I have a good amount of worsted weight. I think, according to statistically, my stash is about 70% fingering weight and about 10%, 9% worsted. And then I have hardly any DK weight. So I need to, next time I'm at a festival, that I need to, no fingering weight and just DK weight yarn. So I also wanted to ask you a question because as I was going through and organizing and kind of looking at my stash, I saw in my yarn hive, which is this, it looks like a beehive, but it's holding my yarn. My husband built it for me. I saw these 4 skeins of yarn that were just randomly sitting in there together in their fingering weight, and they looked so pretty next to each other. I thought, these need to be in a shawl together. They need to be. And so I wanted to ask you, what is your favorite 4-color shawl? I know there's the Exploration Station, and some people from my Knit Night knit that and have said that I need to knit it, so that might be what it becomes. And I know some other friends have knit it, but I just wanted to kind of ask you guys if there are any others, because I feel sometimes certain patterns become super popular, and then other really awesome patterns get overlooked. So I would love to know if you know of any other 4-color shawl patterns that are not popular but are still awesome. Because I always like to kind of go for the underdogs. That's kind of, I like to pick patterns that aren't as well known normally. So that is all of my upcoming stuff. And then for spinning, I am still working on the spinning that I'm doing, and I've decided that I'm going to fill up the bobbins that I have, and then once I have 3 AcreWorks bobbins, and once those are full, I'm gonna ply them all, not together, but just at the same time, to kind of do it in steps, because my plying recently has been giving me struggles, and I'm thinking, I don't know if maybe just doing a whole bunch at once will be better or what, but I'm gonna try that this time. But then for enabling, I also have something that's spinning related. So for my birthday a while ago in March, last month in March, my friend Jennifer, Ironical Knitter, sent me an Etsy gift card, and I've been thinking about it for a while, what I wanted to get, and I really wanted to get some fiber. And this dyer, I've been looking at their yarn forever, but I didn't know that they dyed fiber, and it all of a sudden showed up on Etsy one day, and I thought, oh, I would try that. So this is kind of going to fall apart. This is Old World Elegance, and this is their spinning fiber, and it is a 50% 25-25 merino silk and bamboo, and this is 4.75 ounces, and I actually don't know if this will all fit on my bobbin, but it's this gorgeous color called Phydeaux, and it is in these whites. I love my spinning fiber to have white in it because I love to see how it plays within the fiber. And it has purple and greens and reds and all kinds of colors. It's Phydeaux Designs. So let's see, that is all for spinning and enabling. And then for group member stuff. So I wanted to let you guys know that almost all of the 900 member group prize have been mailed out, and the only one that's left is one that needs to be mailed internationally, so I'm going to do that next weekend just because those cost a bit more. And so I mailed out all the others, and so those should be coming to you soon. Look for those in your mailbox. And so next week I will mail out the one to Canada, and then I have 1 or 2 more prizes to mail, and then hopefully if this person gets in contact with me soon, I can mail this one out next weekend too. And this is for the prize that we had from the DFW. It was for this wonderful bag. It has traveling theme. And for this wonderfully gorgeous skein of Madeline Tosh yarn that I picked up at DFW for you guys. Because I know, we can't all go to all the festivals, but it's fun to kind of get to experience a little bit of it through a giveaway of seam yarn and stuff, so I wanted to pick that up. And I drew for that, and the winner was post number 97. And her name is, or her Ravelry name is LK1118. So LK1118, post number 97. When you see this, let me know and just message me with your address, and I will send that wonderful prize package off to you. And so we also have going on in the group right now our Read Knit KAL, which is like the easiest knit along ever, because I'm assuming that everybody who watches this podcast probably reads books. It's probably a safe assumption, right? But so anything you've read, make it relate any way you want to what you're knitting. It's so easy. I'm not going to check and make sure, like if you're like, this person was knitting a shawl in this book, I'd be like, cool. I'm definitely not going to check any of that. And so that's going on right now, and that will be going from April through May. And then, this is kind of an informal thing, and there might be prizes, because I think prizes are fun. And if anybody wants to donate a prize, write me. But so, summer in Texas is coming, and it is hot. As anybody knows who lives on, this part near the equator, it gets hot. I'm not actually near the equator, but relatively, as opposed to Canada or somewhere in the far north of where I live. And so it gets hot here in the summers, is my point. We had one summer where we had 100 days of 100 degrees, and it was insane. So during the summertime, I I knit socks a lot because they're little, you know, you don't want a shawl or a sweater or a blanket or something big on your lap. And so my idea was for this summer, I'm going to be knitting socks. So I thought I could have a kind of little thread open about summer and socks. But to make it kind of fun for me, I have been seeing on Instagram everywhere, and I know Danny Little Bobbin's talking about this, and I'm sure tons of other people have, and I just haven't seen it, but they have tons of sock whips on the needles, and I always only have one. And so I was seeing all the Instagram pictures, and I was just thinking, I want to do that. I want to put a whole bunch of socks on the needles, and I have so much fingering weight yarn, and I have so many sock size bags, and to use only one, it's hard to, you know, use them all. So my husband came home one day and I was like, well, he comes home every day, but anyway, one day when he came home this week, I said, don't be alarmed at the state of the bed. And he's like, I haven't been upstairs yet, what's going on? And I said, I may have taken out every single sock knitting project bag that I own and filled them all with yarn in anticipation for, dun dun dun, the Great Sock Needle Experiment Extravaganza. How's that for a name? But so this idea actually came to me when my friend Celine sent me these, which are Knit Pro Zings, which I had never tried. And I thought, how about if over this summer I get a whole bunch of needles that I've never tried and cast on all the socks and knit them all with new needles and kind of see, because when somebody had asked in the 900 member group thread too, what are my favorite needles? And I love, for knitting on larger projects, I love my marbles because I love the fun colors and they feel great in my hands, but the marbles don't come in sock size. So I'm kind of odd when I'm doing toe up. I like to knit with my Addy sock rockets. It's my favorite. And then top down, which is what I knit other times, I like to knit with my Knitter's Pride. So I just thought that I would try some new needles. So I have the ones that Celine gave me. I got these from the yarn store yesterday. I have some Addy flip sticks, and then as you can see, a whole bunch of Knit Picks needles. Because like I said, I have the Knitter's Pride, I have the sock rockets. I've tried Hiya Sharps. They're too sharp for the way I knit. I've tried Signatures. Again, they're too sharp and they also hurt my hands. So if you know of any other sock knitting needles that you love that I can get in the States, let me know so I can know for the Great Sock Needle Experiment. And I would love to just know that, and I'm going to put up a thread for that if you would care to knit socks along this summer. I know summer doesn't start for a while technically, but yesterday when we were walking around, like when I was going in to get these from the yarn store, the black top pavement was just searing with heat and hitting me, and I was like, so, summer's here. So yay, trying out a whole bunch of new sock needles. I'm actually really excited. I probably won't be once I get overwhelmed with I'm getting nothing done because I have 5 million projects on the needles. But I won't have that many. But so I'm just excited about casting on a whole bunch of socks and having socks that are just lying there saying, would you like to work on me? And I can think, which ones would I like to work on today of my, because some people I've seen on Instagram have like 5, 10 pairs of socks on the needles, and it just amazes me and I want to try it. It makes me excited. Because I've always been a one sock on the needle kind of gal. And then that's all for group stuff. And so I think that's everything. I'm sure I forgot something because I even have a rough outline today because I didn't want to forget something, but as always happens to me when I make an outline, it's because I have so much I need to talk about, but then I always forget stuff anyways. If I remember anything that I forgot, which is highly unlikely, or if you want to tell me something I forgot, I'll post it in the show notes, or you can tag me in the Ravelry group thread. But for books this week, we had our short story read along for the month of April, and I picked Edith Wharton's Rembrandt. The Rembrandt, I believe it's title. And so this is one that I selected because Edith Wharton has brilliant writing, and she's just very kind of has this satire about it where she kind of pokes fun at these people around her that think they're so wonderful and kind of snobby people. And I only read I've read some of her novels, but none of her short stories, so I wanted to read this, and also it said that it kind of had a heartwarming, happy ending, and I thought after all the other stories that we've done and ones that we're probably going to be doing, it would be nice to have one, right, with a happy, heartwarming ending. So this story deals with this woman who is kind of a purchaser of art for a museum, and her cousin comes to her and says, I have someone who is selling a painting which is a Rembrandt and you need to come look at it, and kind of lets her know that this person is about to be in poverty and kicked out of their, or is in poverty and is about to be kicked out of their home unless this painting can sell. So the woman goes there to view the painting, and it was purchased in this very romantic story way of when she and her husband were younger on their honeymoon, I believe, and so she's had it with her all these years, and she's now a widow and older and needs to sell it because she's destitute. And the painting is not signed. So that's why she can't sell it to the museum, why she hasn't sold it before. And so the person comes up, and she can automatically tell that she says it's not even worth, in her mind, she's thinking, it's not even worth 10 cents. But she sees this lady, and something about this woman, who her quiet pride and just her general attitude of she's not begging for anything, she's just very kind of quiet, calm presence, makes the woman who is coming to appraise it, the appraisal person says it's worth $1,000. And so she knows it's not. So she goes away, and the person writes her back and says, I would like to sell this to you. And she wasn't even thinking, oh, that she wanted to buy it. She was just saying that this is what it's worth, so she could go try to sell it to somebody else. And big mix-up. And then she talks to this man who she's kind of, I believe, acquaintance with, and he doesn't have a lot of money. He works very hard, supports his mother and his sister, I believe, with what he has. And she talks to him, and he says that he was going to buy this painting. And the appraisal person lets him in and says, it's not really worth that, you shouldn't give. And he's like, oh, it's fine, I don't really care much for art. I just wanted to help her out because I know that she needs it. And so this woman is so touched by that she thinks, you know what, I will just buy this for the museum. She's like, I get to kind of purchase what I want, and I will just buy this for the museum, and just kind of hopefully no repercussions will come of it. And the man who actually, the only one who would kind of, she thinks who would have objections to it, is off on a tour of Europe or a holiday in Europe. And so she purchases it with the museum's money and puts it in the cellar, hoping that nobody will that we kind of glazed over. And then, this is spoilers, I'm so sorry I didn't say that before I started, but I'm assuming it's at the end of the month, so you've probably read it or you're not going to. But so she purchases it, and then the man comes back from Europe, and he's kind of prodding her, and he's like, I saw the Rembrandt in the cellar. And she's like, I didn't say it was in the basement. She's like, I didn't say it was a Rembrandt. He's like, oh, I know, but it was somewhere scratched on the frame and all this stuff. And so he lets on that he knows that she did it, but actually tells her that he's glad, because he's like, oh, that the crusty old men that have been on this council would like more ways to be philanthropic, but they don't ever think of it, don't ever know it. So they're actually glad that she was generous and gave this woman money to not be destitute, because they're older men, and they have tons of money that they're just buying up art. And so they decide to give her back the Rembrandt to kind of keep as a memento, instead of hanging it up in the museum as kind of a memento for good deeds. So I thought that was very sweet. And then the last thing I would normally just do the short story, but I had to talk about this because it is National Poetry Month. It's at the end of it, so I wanted to do this, or else it wouldn't be anymore. But my husband and I had a holiday where we got to go to Austin, and my mom watched my kids for our anniversary a year or two ago, and it was just a 1 or 2 night stay, very short trip, because I don't like to be gone for a while and have my mom watching them. It's okay if I'm gone and my husband's watching them, but I don't like to leave my mom watching them a lot longer, because I know she gets tired running after kids. But so we went to Austin, which is just about an hour drive from where I live in the northwest side of I live on the north side of San Antonio. But so one of our favorite places, and if you ever go to Austin and you love books, you have to check this out, is a bookstore called Book People. And so we went in there and we decided to grab some random books and then head over to the UT Austin or UT campus. And I did not go to the University of Texas. I'm actually went to the rival school, but we decided, I love college campuses. I love to sit in them and just sit under a tree with some food and some coffee and just read books. That is like a huge happiness place for me. And so we got these books and we went into under the trees on the campus and sat there. So one of the books that I got that I actually read on campus was a book of poetry because I love poetry so much. So this is called After the Witch Hunt, Poems by Meagan Falley. Where's the title? And I wanted to read you two really short ones. They're all varying in length, and I also wanted to say for this is a book that is wonderful. It's very raw. It deals a lot with stuff that women go through, and that's not very nice. You know, stuff that 1 in 4 women. So chances are people watching this podcast, because it's 1 in 4 and a lot 1 in 4 people watch, have dealt with. And so she talks about those. And some of these poems made me cry because some of the issues that she has talked about that women have faced, I have faced. And so I was on the UT campus crying. But anyways, I'm not going to read you one of the ones that make me cry because she has there's a lot of language in here, explicit language. I do not, like you can ask any of my friends and stuff, I do not ever really cuss ever, but I'm not offended by it. If somebody else likes to, then that's fine. I just don't do it. So reading it doesn't bother me. It wouldn't make me do it. I don't do it, but I don't mind reading it because I get what she's trying to express, I guess I'm saying. So the first one I want to read, this is a really good one. Is The Worst Thing I Ever Taught My Girl. When my daughter came home from school, sorrow shrill as a recess bell, her story hopscotching through hiccups to tell me that Bobby keeps yanking her pigtails like 2 ends of a jump rope, calling her stupid. So often she swears he thinks it's her name. I cupped her cheeks, shivering like the heart of a snowman, and I said, "My baby, my beautiful girl, don't you know? He's trying to get your attention. It probably means he likes you." And I love the message of that, how, telling a daughter that because somebody's hurting you because they like you is probably not a good thing to do. And I know as mother of daughter, it's so hard to think about, like, I know how I want her to be strong and independent and kind is one of the biggest things I want, and those kind of things. But like, there's so many things that you can say and you don't know how to encounter different situations. And I really thought that was very poignant. And then the other thing, this shows some of her poems are pages and pages. This other poem is one sentence, one word. The most beautiful word in the English dictionary. Stay. That's the poem. So this is After the Witch Hunt, Poems by Meagan Falley. And it probably would be hard to get if you wanted to read it, but hopefully not impossible. Hopefully I didn't just interest you in a book that's impossible to get. But the author Meagan Falley is a writer of poems, a lover of animals, and a dismantler of the patriarchy. She is a fierce poetry slam competitor, which is pretty cool, and has represented New York City at the adult national level and the State University of New York at New Paltz for 4 years on the collegiate circuit, a team she later returned to coach. In 2009, Meagan co-founded the annual Wade Lewis Poetry Slam Invitational, the second largest college poetry tournament in the country. And it just goes on to talk about her writing and stuff like that. But I thought that was so cool that she competed in poetry slams. That's the book. So I would love to know what your feelings are about poetry. Do you love it but just don't ever, or do you like it but just don't ever really read it? Do you love it and read it often, or do you love it but don't read it as much as you would like? Or do you not like poetry at all? So my reflection really quickly, or my thoughts on poetry, I love it. I absolutely love it. I feel that so much can be conveyed in a poem that cannot be often translated well to a novel, because since novels have a much longer length, I feel that poetry can just be so raw and hit you very hard, whereas opposed to, it's hard for a book to maintain that kind of feeling. And I know there are a couple that do. I've heard that A Little Life is a book that does, but that maintain that kind of rawness throughout the entire book without becoming tedious. And so I just love how poems can get in there and hit you at a spot that you really relate to, and then you can walk away and kind of think about, it's not so much of a commitment where if you read a book that is very heart-wrenching and it takes you months, and then at the end you feel kind of just sobbing for days. So that's what I like about poetry. I don't read it a ton, but I do read it frequently. And I have quite a collection of poetry books. So I should have probably reviewed more over the month, but that's what that is. And then for the short story read-along, I was going to say the next one for the month of May is Choose Your Own. So this will be really easy for Brenda, who is so sweet and a good yarn who helps me do the read-along things. You don't have to link anything. It's just read your own, and I will be reviewing a book of short stories that I have recently finished next week, hopefully. So that is everything for this week. I hope you have a wonderful week and that you get to do all the things you love. Okay, bye.